Taiho's back hurt. His shoulders hurt. Even his fingers hurt from gripping heavy cargo boxes all day. He walked slowly through the lower decks of Station Meridian 7, too tired to care about the crowds pushing past him. 16 hours of loading and unloading ships. 16 hours of lifting, carrying, and sorting, and tomorrow he would do it all again. The station was huge, a massive metal city floating in space where thousands of aliens from hundreds of worlds came to trade. Taiho was just one human among many species, trying to survive and send money back home to Earth. His parents were old now, and his little sister Hana needed expensive medical treatments. Every credit he earned went to them. He kept almost nothing for himself. His home was a small pod in the cheapest section of the station. One room, a bed that folded into the wall, a tiny bathroom, a food processor that made bland synthetic meals. But there was one thing Taiho loved about his small space. In the corner under a special light he grew real earth plants. Tomatoes, herbs, even a small flower. They reminded him of home, of the garden his mother used to keep. Tonight Taiho was too tired to go straight home. He took a shortcut through the maintenance corridors, the dark and quiet passages that most people avoided. His feet dragged. His eyes were half closed. He just wanted to reach his bed and sleep. Then he heard something, a small sound, like crying but trying to be quiet. Taiho stopped. He listened. There it was again, a soft whimper coming from behind a large waste recycler. He should keep walking. He should mind his own business. But something made him look. Behind the machine, pressed into the shadows, were two small figures. Children, but not human children. They had large eyes that glowed faintly in the dark, and their skin had a silver shine to it. They were Velans, a species Taiho had seen a few times on the station. These two were tiny, scared, alone. The older child, a girl, held the younger one close. She looked at Taiho with frightened eyes. The little boy buried his face in his sister's shoulder. Taiho knelt down slowly. He held up his hands to show he meant no harm. "Hey," he said softly. "It's okay. I won't hurt you." The girl didn't move. She watched him carefully, ready to run. Taiho touched the translator device on his collar. It would turn his words into something they could understand. "Are you lost? Where are your parents?" For a long moment the girl said nothing. Then in a small voice she spoke. The translator turned her words into Korean. "Dead pirates killed them. Killed everyone on our ship." Taiho's chest tightened. These children had watched their parents die. They had somehow ended up here, alone on a massive station where no one cared about two lost alien kids. "What are your names?" he asked gently. "I'm Lyra," the girl said. "This is Pip, he's my brother." "I'm Taiho." He looked at them more carefully. They were too thin. Their clothes were dirty and torn. "When did you last eat?" Lyra's glow eyes dropped. 2 days ago. Maybe 3. Taiho made a decision. Probably a stupid decision. Definitely a dangerous decision. But he couldn't leave them here. "Come with me. I'll get you some food." "Why would you help us?" Lyra asked, suspicious. "We're not your species." "Because you're kids," Taiho said simply. "And you need help." He led them back to his quarters, checking to make sure no one saw. Unregistered aliens on the station were illegal. If security found out he was hiding them, he could lose his job, lose his residence permit, get sent back to Earth with nothing. But what else could he do? In his small room, the children stared at everything with wide eyes. Taiho pulled out his emergency food supplies. Protein bars, dried fruit, nutrient paste. Not great, but better than nothing. He gave them water first, then food. They ate like they were starving, which they probably were. While they ate, Taiho asked questions. Lyra told him their story in bits and pieces. Their colony ship had been attacked. A kind crew member from another ship had found them hiding in an escape pod. He smuggled them onto the station, planning to find them help. But he got sick and died before he could. The children had been hiding in the corridors for almost a week. Pip didn't talk much. He just stayed close to his sister, his small hand gripping her arm. He looked at Taiho with those big glowing eyes, trying to decide if this human was safe. After they ate, Taiho made them a bed from his spare blankets on the floor. "You can sleep here tonight," he told them. "We'll figure out what to do tomorrow. You'll let us stay?" Lyra asked, surprised. "For now," Taiho said, "but we have to be quiet. No one can know you're here." That night, Taiho lay in his own bed, staring at the ceiling. What had he done? He barely had enough money to feed himself. Now he had 2 alien children to take care of. If station security found out, his life was over. But when he looked over at the children sleeping peacefully for the first time in days, he knew he couldn't turn them away. He would figure something out. Somehow. The next morning, Taiho left extra food for the children and went to work. He told them to stay quiet, stay hidden, and not touch anything. Lyra promised they would be good. Work was the same. Heavy lifting, angry supervisors, barely enough breaks. But Taiho's mind was elsewhere. He kept thinking about Pip and Lyra, 2 kids who had lost everything. 2 kids who had no one else. When he came home that night, exhausted and sore, he found Lyra looking at his plants. "What are these?" she asked. "Earth plants," Taiho said. "From my home planet. They're beautiful," Lyra said. Pip reached out and gently touched a tomato leaf. For the next 2 days, Taiho shared his tiny home with the children. He bought extra food, even though it meant spending credits he didn't have. Lyra started to relax a little, even smile sometimes. Pip drew pictures on an old datapad Taiho gave him. Pictures of plants and flowers and what Taiho thought might be their old home. It felt almost normal. Almost like a family. But on the 4th day, everything changed. Taiho came home from work to find a message on his door. An official station notice. Security had been alerted about 2 unregistered Velen children. Anyone with information should report it immediately, and there was more. A merchant named Gorath had filed a legal claim on the children. Something about salvage laws, something about abandoned property from a destroyed ship. Taiho's blood ran cold. He went inside and locked the door behind him. Lyra looked at him with worried eyes. "What's wrong?" Taiho didn't know how to explain. Someone knew about the children. Someone wanted to take them, and Taiho had no idea how to stop it. The meeting with station security was worse than Taiho expected. 2 officers, neither of them human, sat across from him in a cold, gray room. They asked him questions. How long had the children been with him? Did he know hiding unregistered aliens was a crime? Did he understand he could be deported? Taiho answered honestly. Yes, he knew it was wrong. But what was he supposed to do? Leave 2 children to starve in the corridors? The officers didn't care about his reasons. Rules were rules. The children were unregistered. Someone had claimed them. The law was clear. Who claimed them? Taiho asked. What does that even mean? The taller officer pulled up a document on his datapad. A merchant named Gorath. He filed a claim under salvage law. The children came from a destroyed colony ship. No living relatives have come forward. Under Section 47 of Station Commerce Law, abandoned property from destroyed vessels can be claimed by registered merchants. Taiho felt sick. They're not property. They're children. The law doesn't distinguish, the officer said flatly. Many species have different views on such matters. The law treats them as salvage. That's insane, Taiho said, his voice rising. You can't let someone own children like they're cargo boxes. The second officer, shorter and with blue scales, actually looked uncomfortable. There is one option, she said quietly. If someone else wants to claim custody, there can be an auction. Whoever bids the highest amount gets legal guardianship. An auction? Taiho couldn't believe what he was hearing. You're going to auction off 2 kids? It's the law, the tall officer said. If you want to prevent Merchant Gorath from taking them, you'll need to outbid him. The minimum starting bid is 50,000 credits. 50,000 credits. Taiho made 1,500 credits per month. After sending money to his family and paying for his quarters and food, he saved maybe 200 credits if he was lucky. He had 3,847 credits total in his account, his entire life savings. The officers gave him 5 days. In 5 days, there would be an auction. If Taiho wanted custody of Pip and Lyra, he needed to come up with 50,000 credits. And that was just to participate. Gorath could bid much higher. Taiho left the security office feeling hollow. How could he possibly raise that much money? That evening, he met Gorath for the first time. The merchant was waiting outside Taiho's quarters, a massive creature dressed in expensive purple silk. His species, Thexian, were known for being ruthless in business. Gorath had 6 arms, each one glittering with golden bracelets. His wide mouth split into something like a smile when he saw Taiho. Ah, the human, Gorath said, his voice deep and oily. The one trying to play hero. Stay away from those children, Taiho said, his hands curling into fists. Gorath laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. The Velen younglings? They're mine, human. My legal claim was filed properly. In 5 days, I will take them to one of my facilities where they will work off their debt to society. Work off their debt? They're 5 and 7 years old. Perfect age, Gorath said. Velen children have small hands. Very useful for detailed assembly work. They'll live in my facility, work 12 hours a day and learn useful skills. Much better than wandering station corridors. Tejo felt rage burning in his chest. You mean you'll make them slaves? I prefer the term contracted workers, Gorath said smoothly. All perfectly legal. They'll work until they're adults, then they're free to go. Only 15 or 20 years. I won't let you take them, Gorath's smile grew wider. You, a poor human dock worker? You can't even afford decent clothes. I've already decided I'll bid 200,000 credits at the auction, just to make sure there's no competition. He leaned closer. Give up, human. You've already lost. After Gorath left, Tejo went inside. Lyra and Pip were playing quietly with the plants, talking in their own language. When they saw Tejo's face, they stopped. What happened? Lyra asked. Tejo sat down heavily. How could he explain this to them? He tried to find simple words. There's a bad person who wants to take you away, make you work in his factory. But I'm going to try to stop him. Pip's eyes went wide with fear. He grabbed his sister's hand. How? Lyra asked. She was smart. She could see Tejo was scared too. I don't know yet, Tejo admitted, but I promise I'll try. That night, Pip had nightmares. Tejo heard him crying and went to comfort him. The little boy held onto Tejo's hand and wouldn't let go. Don't let the bad man take us, Pip whispered in his language. The translator made his voice sound even smaller. Please, Teapa. Appa. The Velen word was close to the Korean word for older brother. Pip was calling him brother. Tejo's heart broke. I won't, he promised. I'll find a way. But he had no idea how. The next day at work, Tejo could barely focus. He dropped a cargo container and got yelled at by his supervisor, a large Centaurian named Vosk. After the shift, Vosk pulled Tejo aside. What's wrong with you? Vosk demanded. You've never been clumsy before. Tejo was too tired to lie. Everything poured out. The children, Gorath, the auction, the impossible amount of money he needed. He expected Vosk to tell him he was stupid, to mind his own business. Instead, Vosk was quiet for a moment. 50,000 just to bid? Yes. And this merchant will probably bid 200,000 or more? Yes. Vosk scratched his chin with a massive hand. That's a lot of money for a dock worker. I know it's impossible, Tejo said bitterly. But I have to try. Why? Vosk asked. They're not your species. Not your responsibility. Tejo looked at his supervisor. Because they're kids. Because they're scared. Because everyone else has given up on them. He paused. Because if I don't try, I'll never forgive myself. Vosk stared at him for a long moment. Then he did something Tejo didn't expect. He smiled. You humans are crazy. You know that? I've been told. Tomorrow work triple shift. I'll pay you extra. Dangerous work, but you seem desperate enough. It wasn't much, but it was something. Tejo thanked him and left. Over the next 3 days, Tejo worked like never before. He took every dangerous job. He unloaded toxic cargo without proper protection, making himself sick but earning hazard pay. He worked in zero-gravity holds that made him dizzy and nauseous. He worked 20-hour shifts until he could barely stand. The other dock workers noticed. They asked questions. Tejo was too exhausted to hide the truth anymore, so he told them. Word spread through the station's human community. A human was trying to save 2 alien kids from slavery. A human was working himself to death for children who weren't even his species. And something unexpected happened. On the 4th day, a woman named Minji came to find Tejo. She worked in one of the station's restaurants. I heard about the auction, she said. She pressed a credit chip into his hand. It's only 500 credits. My tips from the last month. But maybe it helps. Then a shuttle pilot named Junho found him. Here's 1,000 credits. I was saving for ship repairs, but they can wait. More humans came. A teacher named Yuna, a mechanic, a shop owner. Some gave 50 credits. Some gave 500. Each one said the same thing. We heard what you're trying to do. We want to help. By the evening of the 4th day, Tejo had 22,000 credits. It wasn't enough. Not even close. But it was more than he ever expected. When he told Lyra and Pip about the humans helping, Lyra started crying. Why? She asked. Why do they care about us? Taiho thought about it. Because that's what humans do, he said finally. We help people who need it. Even when it's hard, the auction was tomorrow. Taiho still didn't have enough, but he wasn't giving up. The morning of the auction, Taiho counted his money one more time. 22,300 credits, still far from the 50,000 minimum. He hadn't slept. His body hurt from days of brutal work. His hands shook as he got dressed in his cleanest work clothes. Lyra and Pip sat on his bed watching him. They were wearing new clothes that Yuna had brought them. Clean and proper, though their faces were pale with worry. What happens if you can't bid? Lyra asked quietly. Taiho didn't have a good answer. I don't know, but I'll think of something. There was a knock on the door. Taiho opened it to find Vosk standing there with several other dock workers. Human and alien alike. We took another collection last night, Vosk said gruffly. After you went home, we passed around a hat at the shift change. He held out a credit chip. 15,000 credits. From everyone on the docks, Taiho stared at the chip. His vision blurred with tears. I can't accept this. It's too much. You don't have a choice, said one of the human workers, a man named Daewon. We already decided. You're going to that auction and you're going to fight. Another worker, an alien with bright orange skin, added, My species has a saying. A child belongs to the whole village, not just the parents. Maybe humans understand this better than most. With the new credits, Taiho had 37,000. Still not enough. Then Minji arrived, out of breath. The human quarter took up a collection last night. Everyone gave something, even people who barely have anything. She handed him another credit chip. 10,200 credits. Taiho couldn't speak. He could only nod. 47,500 credits. So close to the minimum, but still short. They all traveled together to the government office where the auction would be held. A crowd had gathered. Taiho saw other humans from the station, there to support him. He saw Goreth near the front, surrounded by assistants, looking pleased with himself. The auction room was cold and official. Rows of seats faced a raised platform where a bored-looking bureaucrat sat. Pip and Lyra had to sit in a special area where everyone could see them. It was cruel, making children watch people bid for the right to own them. The bureaucrat, a thin alien with gray skin, began explaining the rules in a flat voice. Minimum bid is 50,000 credits. Bids increase by 5,000 credit increments. Highest bidder receives full legal custody. Any questions? Taiho raised his hand. His heart was pounding. I don't have 50,000 yet, but then you cannot participate, the bureaucrat said. Rules are clear. Minimum bid or no bid. Goreth laughed loudly. Did you really think you could compete, human? How pathetic. Taiho felt everything crashing down. He'd failed. After all the work, all the help from his friends, he was still short. He looked at Pip and Lyra. Pip was crying silently. Lyra held her brother, her face set in grim acceptance. Then the door burst open. Vosk strode in carrying a data pad. Wait, he called out. Emergency credit transfer. The dock workers' union voted this morning. We're loaning Taiho our emergency fund. 2,500 credits. That brings him to exactly 50,000. The bureaucrat looked annoyed. Is this transfer verified? Right here, Vosk said, showing the datapad. All legal and proper. The bureaucrat checked the information and sighed. Very well. Participant Taiho may bid. Goreth's smile faded a little. He looked irritated, but only a little. He still had far more money. Let the auction begin, the bureaucrat announced. Opening bid, 50,000 credits. 50,000, Taiho said immediately. It was everything he had. 75,000, Goreth said lazily, like it meant nothing to him. Taiho's stomach dropped. He couldn't match that. He had nothing left. Then Minji stood up from the audience. I want to add to Taiho's bid, she called out. 1,000 credits from me. That's not how this works, the bureaucrat said. Why not? Junyo stood up too. If he's bidding on behalf of a group, we should be allowed to add funds. Check your rules. The bureaucrat looked confused. This had probably never happened before. He checked his datapad, scrolling through regulations. After a long minute, he looked up. There's nothing that specifically forbids additional funding during the auction. I'll allow it. Goreth sat up straighter, looking angry now. I'll add 2,000, Junho said. 500 from me. called Yuna. Other humans stood up, one by one, adding their credits. 300 here, 800 there. Within minutes, Taiho's bid was at 80,000. 80,000 credits, the bureaucrat announced. 100,000, Gorath snapped. And I'll add another 50,000 on top. 150,000 total. Let's end this farce. The room went silent. That was an enormous amount. No one had that kind of money to add. Taiho stood up. His legs felt weak. He had no more credits to give. But he couldn't stay silent. He wouldn't. I can't match that bid in credits, he said, his voice carrying through the room. But I can offer something else. This is a credit auction, the bureaucrat said. Let him speak, called out a voice. Taiho turned and saw an elegant alien woman standing in the back. She wore official coalition robes. I'm Kalara from the Child Welfare Division. I've been observing this auction. Let's hear what the human has to say. Taiho took a breath. I'll give my future wages for the next 10 years. I'll give my landing rights on any coalition station. I'll give my family's property on Earth. His voice grew stronger. I'll give everything I have, everything I'll ever have, if it means these children don't become slaves. The room was completely quiet now. That's not legal payment, Gorath protested. Why not? Kalara asked. You're treating these children as property to be bought. If we're going to be barbaric about it, why can't future wages count as payment? It's how indentured servitude works. This is absurd, Gorath said, standing up. His 6 arms waved in agitation. I'm following the rules. This human is making a mockery of legal procedure. The rules allow me to suspend an auction if I believe the welfare of children is at risk, Kalara said calmly. And I'm starting to believe that any system that treats children as salvage might need review. Gorath's face darkened. You can't do that. I have rights. I filed my claim properly. And I have the authority to investigate claims, Kalara said. Especially when I hear that you run labor facilities employing children in dangerous conditions. All legal. Gorath insisted. Then you won't mind a thorough inspection? Kalara replied. Gorath looked around the room. More aliens were watching now, some with disapproval on their faces. Word about the auction had spread. This wasn't just humans watching anymore. I'll make one final offer, Kalara said. One more round of bidding. After that, I'm suspending this auction pending full investigation of both the salvage law and Gorath's facilities. This is outrageous, Gorath sputtered. One more round, Kalara repeated. Or I stop this now and the children go into coalition protective custody while we sort this out. Your choice, Merchant Gorath. Gorath glared at her, then at Taiho, then at the watching crowd. He was trapped and he knew it. Fine, he growled. One more round. The auction room felt smaller now, the air heavy with tension. Everyone was watching. Humans, aliens, even the bureaucrat looked nervous. This wasn't a normal custody auction anymore. It had become something else. Something important. Gorath stood at his full height, all 6 arms crossed. He was angry now, not amused anymore. His business reputation was at stake. He couldn't afford to look weak in front of everyone. 250,000 credits, Gorath announced loudly. His voice echoed in the chamber. That's my final bid. More than double what these Velen children are worth in any market. Gasps came from the audience. That was a huge amount. Gorath wasn't bidding based on value anymore. He was bidding to win, to prove a point, to crush the human who dared to challenge him. Taiho felt the weight of that number crush down on him. 250,000 credits. He couldn't even imagine that much money. He had nothing left to offer. No more credits, no more assets, nothing. He looked at Pip and Lyra. Pip was sobbing now, trying to be quiet but unable to stop. Lyra held her brother, her face blank with shock. They understood. They were going to lose. Well, the bureaucrat asked, looking at Taiho, do you have a counter bid? Taiho opened his mouth. He didn't know what he was going to say, but he had to say something. He couldn't just give up silently. I can't match that in credits, he said. His voice was steady, even though his hands shook. So I'll offer myself instead. What? The bureaucrat looked confused. I'll indenture myself to the station for 20 years, Taiho said. I'll work without freedom, without the right to leave, without any rights at all. Every credit I earn beyond basic survival will go to their care and education. That's my bid. The room erupted in noise. People talking, arguing, questioning. The bureaucrat banged his hand on the desk for silence. That's not a standard bid, the bureaucrat said uncertainly. But it's a bid, Kalara said from the back. In many cultures, freedom has value. The human is offering 20 years of his life as payment. Surely that has worth. This is ridiculous, Gorath said. Humans value their freedom above everything. This one is bluffing. He won't really do it. I will, Taiho said, looking directly at Gorath. I absolutely will. Something in his voice made people believe him. The room went quiet again. Gorath stared at Taiho, really looked at him. Saw a human who was exhausted, injured from days of brutal work, dressed in cheap clothes. A nobody, but a nobody who wouldn't quit. You're a fool, Gorath said. No species sacrifices this much for children that aren't even their own. It's unnatural, inefficient. It proves humans are too emotional to be taken seriously in galactic commerce. That was his mistake. A Centaurian trader in the audience stood up. I find that offensive, she said. My species values family above all else. This human shows great honor. Perhaps your species doesn't understand this, Merchant Gorath, but many of us do. Agreed, said a Delarian in medical robes. Caring for young is not weakness. It's the foundation of civilization. More voices joined in. Species after species expressing either support for Taiho or disgust at Gorath's words. The merchant had miscalculated badly. By insulting Taiho's actions, he'd insulted values that many species held sacred. Then something unexpected happened. A group of aliens near the front stood up. They were Velans, the same species as Pip and Lyra. An older female stepped forward. We came when we heard our people's children were being sold, she said, her voice shaking with emotion. We're refugees. We don't have much, but we cannot stand by while our young are treated like cargo. She held up a credit chip. We have 45,000 credits. Everything our community saved. We want to add it to the humans' bid. The bureaucrat looked like he wanted to disappear. I don't even know how to process this. It's simple, Kalara said. Calculate the total value being offered. Compare it to the merchant's bid. Determine the winner. The value of 20 years of human labor cannot be accurately calculated, the bureaucrat protested. Then estimate it, Kalara said firmly. You have wage records. Calculate what this human would earn over 20 years. Add the Velan community's donation. Compare. The bureaucrat worked on his data pad, looking miserable. After several minutes, he looked up. Based on standard dock worker wages and projected increases, 20 years of labor would generate approximately 180,000 credits in value. Adding the Velan donation brings the total to 225,000 credits. Still less than my bid, Gorath said triumphantly. I win. Wait, called another voice. A Centaurian merchant stood up. I'd like to add to the human's bid. 50,000 credits, as would I, said a Delarian. 30,000 credits, and why? Gorath demanded. These aren't your children. You don't even know this human. Because this human showed us something we'd forgotten, the Centaurian said. That some things matter more than profit. I'm ashamed it took a human to remind me. More beings stood up. One after another, they added to Taiho's bid. Some gave large amounts, some small. It wasn't just humans now. It was species from across the galaxy, moved by what they'd witnessed. The bureaucrat could barely keep track. The numbers climbed. 230,000. 260,000. 280,000. 300,000 credits combined pledges, the bureaucrat finally announced. Plus 20 years of indentured service. The human's bid is now significantly higher. Gorath could have bid higher. Taiho could see it in his face. The merchant had the wealth to go to 400,000, maybe 500,000. But he looked around the room at all the watching faces. Many looked at him with disgust now. His business partners whispered among themselves, looking worried. Kalara stepped forward. I should mention, she said casually, that my investigation into your labor facilities will be very thorough, Merchant Gorath. I'll be checking every regulation, every safety standard, every worker contract. I'll make sure everything is perfectly legal. It was a threat and everyone knew it. Even if Gorath's operations were legal, an investigation would be expensive, time-consuming, and bad for business. His reputation was already damaged. Gorath's 6 arms trembled with rage. He looked at Taiho with pure hatred, but he was beaten and he knew it. I withdraw my bid, Gorath said through clenched teeth. This entire proceeding has been a mockery of proper commerce. I'll be filing complaints with the Commerce Board. You do that, Kalara said pleasantly. I'll be filing reports with Child Welfare Services about your facilities. Gorath stormed out of the chamber, his assistants hurrying after him. The door slammed shut behind them. The bureaucrat looked at his datapad, then at Taiho. He seemed almost in awe. I declare Taiho the winner of this custody auction. Legal guardianship of the Velen miners Pip and Lyra is hereby granted. For a moment, Taiho couldn't move. He'd won. He'd actually won. Then Pip and Lyra were running toward him, breaking free from the designated area. They crashed into him, both children hugging him and crying. Taiho dropped to his knees and held them close, his own tears falling freely now. Tai Appa, Pip sobbed, using the Velen word for father. You didn't let the bad man take us. Never, Taiho whispered. I'll never let anyone hurt you. The room erupted in applause. Humans cheering. Aliens of many species showing approval in their own ways. Vosk had tears running down his large face. Minji was hugging Junho. Yuna was wiping her eyes. Kalara approached Taiho, who was still on his knees holding the children. That was very brave, she said. Also very foolish, but mostly brave. I meant what I said, Taiho told her. I'll honor those pledges. I'll work for 20 years if I have to. Actually, Kalara said with a small smile, I've been reviewing the legal details. Most of those pledges were made as donations, not loans. And the ones that were loans have very generous terms. I don't think you'll need to indenture yourself after all. Taiho looked up at her, confused. People wanted to help, Kalara explained. They weren't demanding repayment. They were investing in something they believed in. She looked at the children. These two are very lucky to have you. I'm the lucky one, Taiho said softly, holding Pip and Lyra closer. Around them, people started coming up to congratulate Taiho or meet the children. The Velen refugees officially welcomed Taiho into their clan. Other species offered help, support, advice. What had started as a cold legal procedure had turned into something beautiful. A human woman pushed through the crowd. Taiho recognized her as a station administrator. We heard about your living situation, she said. A single quarters pod isn't suitable for a family. We're upgrading you to a 3-room unit in the family sector. Same rent. Vosk appeared next. Also, you're promoted. Dock supervisor position. Better pay, better hours. Someone needs to replace me when I retire next year anyway. Taiho couldn't speak. Too many emotions, too much kindness, too much everything. He just held his children and cried. Moving day came 3 days after the auction. Taiho stood in his old quarters, looking at the tiny space that had been his home for 2 years. It had always felt empty before, but now with Pip and Lyra running around excitedly gathering their few belongings, it felt full of life. Look, Taiappa. Pip held up one of his drawings. Can we put this in our new home? Of course, Taiho said. We'll put all your drawings up. Their new quarters in the family sector were amazing compared to the old pod. 3 rooms, a real kitchen, not just a food processor, a bathroom with an actual shower instead of a sonic cleaner, and, best of all, a living area with big windows that showed the stars outside. When they first walked in, Lyra gasped. This is all ours? All ours, Taiho confirmed. Pip ran from room to room, his glowing eyes wide with wonder. He'd never had his own room before. Even on the colony ship, he'd shared cramped quarters with dozens of other families. The human community helped them settle in. Minji brought food, real cooked food that filled the quarters with wonderful smells. Junyo helped set up furniture that the station had provided. Yuna arrived with educational datapads for the children and toys donated by families in the human quarter. You're not alone in this, Yuna told Taiho. Raising kids takes a village. We're your village now. That first night in their new home, Taiho made dinner for his children. It was simple, nothing fancy, but they ate together at a real table. Pip talked about wanting to learn how to grow plants like Taiho's earth garden. Lyra asked if she could go to the station school with other children. Yes to everything, Taiho said, his heart full. You can learn whatever you want. Do whatever you want. You're safe now. After dinner, Taiho tucked them into their beds. Real beds, not blankets on the floor. Pip held onto a stuffed animal that Minji had brought. Lyra had chosen a corner room where she could see the stars through the window. Taiappa, Lyra said quietly as he was about to leave. Are you really our father now? Forever? Taiho sat on the edge of her bed. Forever, he promised. Nothing will separate us. I made sure the legal documents say that you're my children. My family, even though we're not human. Family isn't about what species you are, Taiho said. It's about who loves you and takes care of you. And I love you both very much. Lyra smiled, her glowing eyes bright. I love you too, Appa. The word hit Taiho hard. Not Teappa anymore, just Appa. Father. He had to leave the room quickly before she saw him cry again. The next few weeks were an adjustment. Taiho's new job as dock supervisor meant better pay but more responsibility. He worked with Vosk to learn the position, while still making sure he was home for dinner every night. His children came first now. Pip and Lyra started school. The first day, Taiho walked them there himself, nervous and proud. Lyra was excited but tried to hide it. Pip clung to Taiho's hand until they reached the classroom. What if the other kids don't like us? Pip whispered. Then those kids are missing out, Taiho said. But I think you'll make lots of friends. He was right. By the end of the first week, both children came home talking about their classmates. Pip had discovered he was good at art. Lyra excelled at mathematics. They were thriving. The debts from the auction were less terrible than Taiho had feared. Many of the aliens who'd contributed at the auction contacted him afterward. Most didn't want repayment. They'd given the money as gifts, moved by what they'd witnessed. The ones who did want repayment offered interest-free loans that Taiho could pay back slowly over many years. The Velen refugee community officially adopted Taiho. In a small ceremony, they performed a traditional ritual that made him an honorary Velen, a nest brother in their culture. They gave him a silver bracelet engraved with symbols that meant, family chosen, not born. You saved our children, the elder Velen woman told him. You are one of us now. Taiho wore the bracelet every day. Word of what happened spread beyond Station Meridian 7. News feeds across the galaxy picked up the story. Human sacrifices everything for alien children, read one headline. Dock worker defeats wealthy merchant in custody battle, read another. Other humans on other stations heard the story. It inspired them. A human mechanic on Station Nova 12 adopted 3 orphaned alien children. A human teacher started a fund to help mixed-species families. The story sparked conversations across the galaxy about salvage laws, child welfare, and what family really meant. Taiho didn't pay much attention to the fame. He was too busy being a father. Learning how to braid Lyra's hair in the traditional Velen style, teaching Pip how to tend to the earth plants they'd moved to the new quarters, helping with homework, reading bedtime stories in 3 different languages. It wasn't always easy. Taiho made mistakes. He got frustrated when he didn't understand Velen customs. He worried constantly that he wasn't doing enough, giving enough, being enough. But Lyra and Pip were patient with him, just as he was patient with them. 3 months after the auction, Taiho received a message from Earth. His sister Hana had completed her medical treatment successfully. She was recovering well. Their parents wanted to know when they could meet their new grandchildren. Grandchildren? Lyra asked when Taiho told them the news. My parents, Taiho explained. Your grandparents now. They want to meet you. Even though we're aliens, Pip asked. Especially because you're my kids, Taiho said. And they love anyone I love. They started planning a trip to Earth. It would take months to save enough money and get the necessary travel permits, but it was something to look forward to. Pip wanted to see real oceans. Lyra wanted to see the garden where Taiho grew up. Meanwhile, life on the station settled into a routine. A good routine. Taiho went to work. The kids went to school. They had dinner together every night. On rest days, they explored the station together, visiting markets and parks and museums. They made friends. They built a life. The garden in their quarters grew bigger. Taiho taught the children how to care for earth plants. They added Velen starflowers that bloomed with soft light in the darkness. The garden became a blend of 2 worlds, just like their family. One evening, 6 months after the auction, Taiho sat in their living area. Pip was drawing at the table, his tongue sticking out in concentration. Lyra was reading a book on her datapad, her legs tucked under her. The soft glow from the plants made everything feel peaceful. This was his life now. Not the life he'd planned. He'd expected to work alone, save money, eventually return to Earth. Instead, he had children. Responsibilities, a family. He'd never been happier. Appa, Lyra said, looking up from her book. At school today, we learned about humans. About Earth history. Did you know humans almost destroyed their own planet once? I did know that, Taiho said. A long time ago, humans made a lot of mistakes. But they fixed it, Lyra said. The teacher said humans learned to work together, to care about each other and other species. Is that true? We're still learning, Taiho admitted. But yes, we're trying to be better. I think humans are good, Pip said without looking up from his drawing. You're good, Appa. You saved us. You saved me too, Taiho said softly. I didn't know what I was missing until I found you. That night, after the children were asleep, Taiho stood by the window looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth. Somewhere out there were thousands of stations and colonies and ships, full of beings trying to survive and find their place in the galaxy. He thought about Gorath, probably still angry, still running his facilities. He thought about the bureaucratic systems that treated children like property. He thought about all the other Pips and Lyras out there alone and scared. One person couldn't fix everything. Taiho knew that. But one person could help 2 children. And if enough people did that, maybe things would change. Other humans had already started. Inspired by the story, they were adopting, helping, standing up for those who needed it. It was a small start, but it was something. Humans weren't the strongest species in the galaxy. They weren't the smartest or the richest, but maybe they had something else. A stubborn refusal to give up. A willingness to sacrifice for others. A belief that family meant more than biology. Maybe that was enough. Taiho looked at the silver bracelet on his wrist, the one that said, "Family chosen, not born." He thought about the humans who'd helped him, giving their credits and time and hope. He thought about the aliens who'd joined in, moved by what they'd seen. Everyone had a choice. To help or to walk away, to care or to ignore, to fight for what was right or to accept what was easy. Taiho had made his choice, and somehow, against impossible odds, it had worked. He heard a small sound and turned. Pip stood in his doorway holding his stuffed animal. "Can't sleep?" Taiho asked. Pip shook his head. "Bad dream. Come here." Taiho picked him up even though Pip was getting bigger. The boy wrapped his arms around Taiho's neck and sighed contentedly. "You're safe," Taiho whispered. "I've got you." "I know," Pip said. "You always do." They stood there together, father and son, human and Velen, looking out at the stars. A family built not from biology but from choice, from sacrifice, from love, and that was the greatest victory of all.